You have been programmed with not good coding, and it's time to rewrite that. Most of our lives, we run on autopilot created by beliefs we never chose. Welcome back to Unzip Lips, where I am talking about some harsh realities. Again, I'm your hostess, Mary Freshwater, and let's talk about the things we were never meant to say out loud. This week is no different when we're going to be diving into a quiet war between our conscious and subconscious. Our conscious is what makes deliberate choices, but our subconscious is what has been programmed and has us running on autopilot. The truth is, we think we're choosing, but most of the time we're actually reacting. So let's break down how your subconscious is actually running the show and how to take back that wheel. Because the biggest question most people don't understand is, what is your subconscious and how does it work? So our subconscious is not a evil or bad thing. It's actually quite efficient, but it's not always right. So our subconscious controls about 95% of your daily behaviors. I mean, think about that. 95% comes from your subconscious. So when you start talking about reacting and responding, when your subconscious is in control of 95%, has your subconscious been programmed to react or to respond? That's a great question because our subconscious has been programmed from repetition, from trauma, our environment, and unchallenged beliefs. So, the best way I can explain this is when a child is born, they have no programming, there's no software that's been installed. They don't have anything. They are a blank computer. You hit the power button and nothing comes on. You have to start installing everything, right? So, as we start installing things, that starts becoming our subconscious and how everything runs in the background. Our deliberate choices is how we utilize those programs. But the computer can run on autopilot. That's our subconscious. That's what's being programmed since a childhood. It stores emotional memories, patterns that keep us protected, and internalized narratives. So, again, that word. We have so much that's being put into us since we were born, and most of them we have no idea where they came from or what had happened in order for us to be programmed that way. We just have patterns that we've learned to keep us safe. It doesn't mean that these subconscious behaviors are healthy, helpful. They just become familiar. So, for example, if love always hurts, our subconscious might equate it to chaos is connection. So, this means when we're a child, on how we're learning love exists and how love is go in our home, how it's expressed and everything else. If it's not healthy, this is what our subconscious is being programmed with. And that means that's familiar until we bring awareness to it. Your subconscious will keep leading you back into these loops. And that's why, like, people that grew up in abuse continue these patterns of abuse, is because we have no awareness of how to break it and how to change the subconscious so we can then move forward. So, this is where your conscious mind needs to become the architect to change. Your power to change yourself, it lies in your conscious decisions. It doesn't just happen. You have to consciously make the decisions in order to change your subconscious. Your conscious mind is your thinking mind. It has the logic, it has the decision making and new learning. So again, your subconscious can be reprogrammed by your new learning. This is how we start to question patterns and interrupt responses or the reacting and build new behaviors. So when you start questioning, why am I doing this? why do I react like this? You can interrupt that reaction pattern and start instilling conscious decisions on how you want to respond instead of react. So then you come from a place of healing and a healthier subconscious. It takes time. Just knowing isn't enough, and you're not going to be able to do this overnight. But a good example is I know I'm worthy, but we still settle for what? The question is why? Because our subconscious is still in control, because we haven't fully rewritten that narrative. We haven't changed the subconscious. We haven't made the conscious choices to change what was programmed. The coding is still the same. So awareness starts to open the door, but now repetition, our emotions, and the choices that we make to walk through it is what will be able to change the patterns of behavior. And so then we can move in a different direction instead of staying on the same negative path. So one of the biggest things though with your subconscious, it is really programmed by trauma triggers. We weren't born with self-doubt. We were trained to have it. So where does this come from? That's again, your subconscious programming has all of those negative emotions that have been programmed into you. You're often very high emotional experiences is what caused it, especially trauma. This is one thing that I talk a lot about. It's what Build You is all about, is overcoming trauma and overcoming those narratives that have been programmed into us. And how do we start flipping those so then we can live a much healthier life? We can find healthy love. We can have healthy relationships. We can start moving in a healthier direction, because childhood trauma, oh man, that is some attachment wounds. You have some crazy stuff, but also what programs it is our cultural message. Like our society is really messed up on our messaging towards children, towards women, towards men, towards relationships. If you really break it down, like a lot of our subconscious also comes from our societal programming, which really kind of sucks that we're living in such an unhealthy society on telling you how to subconsciously choose negative stuff on a daily basis. Consumerism is a great programmer on that. But instead of going on that tangent, let's talk about triggers that are not signs of weakness. They're signs of unhealed programming. So the biggest thing is with that statement is when you get triggered, it is your subconscious screaming that you're not healthy, that there is something to be aware of, you're not safe. Run, run is what it's saying. So how do you get that to shut off when you are safe? You're no longer in survival mode. You are in healthy environments. That is the biggest thing, where your consciousness has to reprogram that to say, no, I'm safe and it's okay to be at peace. Or otherwise, your subconscious is going to keep rejecting the peace and keep making you feel like you're unsafe. So healing is like reprogramming your emotional GPS. So your consciousness has to put in the coordinates and say, no, I'm choosing this route, not the one that's on auto. And you have to start choosing it in order for that emotional GPS to change, learn the trajectory of what you want, and then it can shift. But it takes time to rewrite your subconscious. Healing is the start of it. Healing isn't all about knowing better. It's about teaching your nervous system and your subconscious to know something different. Because if you don't know different, I mean, we can know that and be aware that, okay, this is one of my glitches. But until you know how to change it, you're going to keep in that same glitching pattern. So the first step is always awareness. You got to catch the patterns. You got to notice the beliefs, and you have to start naming the triggers. So one of my biggest things is anyone who knows me knows that I hate the blanket term narcissist, because when you use a blanket term like that, you are not naming what's actually happened. You're not naming the full on triggers. You are just blanket shoving it under the rug and artificially moving on. But now, if you say, like myself, I was in an abusive situation, I was sexually abused, I was physically abused, these are the situations that happened. These are the triggers that I have that are attached to what had happened. That actually starts that awareness, the full awareness. You're not surface level awareness. You are actually deep diving into that. Now, step two is safety. Your body must feel safe to change. Healing environments matter. Healing environments matter so much, because if you don't feel safe, or you can't get your body to actually start recognizing that you are in a safe environment, there is no danger lurking around the corner, your body is still at a hyper survival mode, and you're not able to start reprogramming until the computer cools down. Because when the computer's running hot, it's going to keep glitching out. There's just no, you can't get there. But step three is repetition with emotions. So your subconscious learns through repeated emotions. So this is going to become like daily affirmation um that you actually believe. So you can put a poster up with the kitty hanging, hanging there. But if you don't believe it, those daily affirmations do jack crap. So when you actually talk about daily affirmations, you need visualization, journaling, internal childhood work. These are actually powerful than just a daily affirmation that you kind of cling to. They're great if you actually believe it and you're going to live by it. They suck if you don't actually see the value in behind it. So then it brings you to step four, which is aligned action. Do something your old self would never dare to do. So I like to say this one very, 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 very deliberately, because this is huge for people that were silent since children. The first thing we would never do is speak our full emotional truth. When you start to speak your full emotional truth, you start to release and change what you would have never done. And you're now doing things that, you know, you were told you're not supposed to do, and you believed it. So action is proof to the subconscious that the belief no longer fits. So the silence no longer fits, that you are healed, you are healing, because let's be honest, we're never healed. Things just keep happening in our life, and we have to keep reprogramming and keep moving forward. It's getting the right tools to keep yourself going forward. That is one of the biggest things that I do even in my practice, is I give you tools that when you're done working with me, you get to move on and continue moving on in your life on repeat, because a lot of stuff that we do in our life is rinse and repeat. It needs adjustments as you go, but it's rinse and repeat. So once you're on a healing journey, you can keep growing, you can keep healing. You just need to have the tools in the steps on knowing how to recognize things, so then you can move forward. That subconscious can start getting reprogrammed. And the crappy part that I talk about a lot as well is that even though you're healing, it doesn't mean it's never going to hurt again. I have given speeches about, I built me and the stuff I've gone through. And one of my talks, I always talk about, let's see how today goes. Because when we're healing and we're on this journey through the rest of our life, it doesn't mean it'll never hurt again. We're continuing to grow. And once we hit a new level of growth, we can actually, our wounds can kind of pop open like a stretch mark. It just pops back open. and it's saying hello, it's because you've reached a new level of growth in healing where you can explore the pain that was deeper in there. And let's look at that. So I'm on stage and I tell these girls, listen, that day I decided I was not going to get through that speech without crying. And I kept tearing up and I kept choking up. And one of the girls that love you or who you are that said, you got it, girl, you just had another level of growth. That is what happens. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say healing won't hurt, because healing sucks. And reprogramming that subconscious to be a very, very deliberate subconscious of healing and healthy is one of the hardest things you can do. And when you hit new levels of growth, you're going to have to work harder at your programming, because that means you just hit a deeper level of where that programming is hitting, and it's time to rework it. And, when you're rewiring it won't work if you think it's going to just happen overnight. If you don't consciously choose your beliefs, your pain will choose them for you and will continue to choose them. So you have to sit down and you have to really understand that you will keep running from things that no longer exist if you don't rewrite. You will self-sabotage healthy relationships because they do not feel familiar, because you do not understand that what's programmed into you is not right for you. You will underperform, overplease, and overfunction just to protect old wounds. So people pleasers, subconsciously, you're a people pleaser because that is what you're doing. You are underperforming, overpleasing, and you are overfunction. Period. That has been programmed into you to be a coping mechanism. You will call it just how I am. Again, those labels, the negative narratives, we've talked about these, but it is not just who you are. It is just how you were taught to be. This is the problem. You were not programmed. You were not born with that programming. You were programmed by other people's chaos, by the environmental chaos, by the unloved feeling you had. These things are not good for you. You deserve better. You can do better. You can create better, because your conscious mind can change your subconscious programming. So you are not broken. You are programmed, and you can reprogram yourself. The most powerful form of reprogramming is healing. Rewriting those internal narratives is the start to all of it. To stop believing the labels, the identities, the negative narratives, and start rewriting it. But rewrite things that you actually believe and can hold true to yourself. Your subconscious is not your enemy. It's just outdated. It is nothing built for you. It was nothing built by you. And it's time to build what you want. And so you can speak up and you can be who you want to be. Choose who you want to be. Teach your mind who you want to be. And your body will follow. Your mind will follow. Your subconscious will follow. You need to devise that plan. You need to choose those things in order to be able to move yourself forward. So, unprogram that subconscious mind. And you do that with your conscious decisions. And I'm going to be honest, you can't just make the choice once. You're going to have to choose it every single day, over and over. And sometimes you will have to remind yourself of the decisions you made multiple times in a day in order to start reprogramming that subconscious. Because that subconscious is used to patterns, decisions, and behaviors. So, in order to change it, you have to decide. So, again, thank you for unzipping with me today. Check me out at buildyou.us to see the ways you're able to work with me. Again, I'll see you on the next episode.